What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. UEP here, and this one's gonna be fairly short. Well, it's really not too short, but so I'm gonna be doing all the contested Senate races. So we did Arizona yesterday, and I am gonna do Alaska because Alaska starts with the name, and I forgot about Alaska. So yeah, so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna analyze this race, and I'm gonna come up with a winner. And I'll say it in the title because like this isn't one of those videos like where you just skip to the end and see who I think the winner is gonna be. Like you actually have to listen to my commentary. So, anyways, uh, people who are characterizing this race as safe or like the Republican, I think that's wrong. And I'm gonna talk about why people are underestimating Al Gross. So in 2014, this was a red wave year. Dan Sullivan, he beat Mark Begich by just barely a lean margin. And I think that this is going to be lean for the Republicans. But this was a red wave year, so I might be underestimating Gross. And it's interesting because Begich was not a very popular candidate. I mean, like, he wasn't unpopular, but he was not very popular. And he had won in 2008. So even in red wave year, Dan Sullivan, who was not super establishment, barely beat Mark Begich in a red wave year. Whereas, let's go back to 2008, where it was close again, but Mark Begich defeated Ted Stevens. So yeah, that's really interesting. And remember, Ted Stevens, he had won back in 2002. He had won by huge margins. I mean, he had won this. He had won that race by 20, or not even. My bad. He won that by 68 points, or less than 68. And before that, he had won, uh, very consistently by big margins. So that is very, very interesting. That he was able to lose to Begich. Now we have to talk about uh my bad. So we have to talk about the polling because the polling is important. And the polling is pretty good news for Sullivan. And this one has him ahead by 13. I don't really I, it's a pretty small sample size, so I wouldn't take it like too seriously. But I do have to look at it. I take this poll a lot more seriously. Bigger sample size, over 1,000, which is good, and a pretty solid poll, B-rated poll. That's pretty good. Um, and overall, I trust this poll more. But in this poll, we have a lot of undecided voters, and I do want to point out that Nextdoor.org does does have a gross winning. Let's see, projections. Okay. So, all right. So here we go. So we're gonna look at Alaska. And let's see. All right. So look. So okay. So they have Alaska flipping by 8 points. To Gross, who is technically he's running as an independent, but he's been endorsed by the Alaska Democratic Party, and he is pretty liberal. I mean, I've actually spoken with, or I've met him before, and his policies are pretty left leaning. And it's very interesting. Um, it's interesting to see that uh, that there are so many. Alaska is a very hard state to analyze because I mean, like when we look at the two elections, 2010 and 2016, or Lisa Murkowski was elected. In 2010 she was a writing candidate, she still won. 2016, it was a four-way race. So, but these races, a Democrat versus a Republican, and this time it'll be an independent versus a Republican, and the independent is kind of like a Bernie Sanders or Angus King type, who's going to be caucusing with the Democrats. That'll be very interesting to see. So we've looked at the polls. Dan Sullivan has not ever been super popular. When he was first elected, he was pretty popular. Or not when he was first elected, but in 2016 he was pretty popular. But now he is kind of, his approval is declining, and he's not insanely popular with his own party. I mean, that's not great. He is plus 10, and he's not crazy unpopular. I mean, I really don't think that he is. I want to see where he is. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, Dan Sullivan. So he's kind of in the middle of the pack, but he's not crazy unpopular. So I wouldn't expect to see him have gross. This is not going to be a referendum on Dan Sullivan, kind of like how in Maine they're going to make it a kind of like a referendum on Susan Collins. I don't know why he did that, but I also want to point out that Dan Sullivan is big on Donald Trump, and we have to look at Donald Trump's approval in Alaska. So let's see if we can find this. We're gonna do the map. Donald Trump, and they registered voters every single day. -5% net approval. That's not good news at all. So we do not expect this to be a blow for Dan Sullivan. However, I don't really trust this poll, but these polls do have Sullivan ahead pretty consistently. That and Alaska is going to go to Donald Trump by probably a likely margin, could be safe. Um, but I do want to talk about one more thing that benefits outgrowths. It's that Alaska voters are fired up right now. There is a petition to recall Governor Mike Dunleavy, who is a Republican who barely won in 2018. Yeah, that's very interesting because that takes a lot of effort and tens of thousands of Alaskans signed this, and so yeah, it's very interesting that we're seeing Alaskans fired up right now, and the whole country is fired up right now. But I think we could see Dan Sullivan losing this race solely because there are some factors that are not playing in his favor. First of all, he's not even from Alaska; he's from Ohio. He moved there in 2011 and then got himself elected a few years later, 3 years later. Whereas Al Gross was born in Alaska, and all his ads, he shoots like skiing in Alaska, or he mentions that he fought off a bear. So he's kind of like the more Alaska type candidate that's gonna help him. There's also a third party candidate. I don't know his name, or her name, but they are a far right challenger, and they are a member of the Alaskan Independence Party, a party that wants to essentially make Alaska their own country, very far right, and they do get 3-4% of the vote in every election, and they only draw away votes from the far right, which is more aligned with the Republican Party. So that's going to help Gross as well. And we're also talking about the Republicans are sleeping on Alaska, so for the Democrats have invested more money in this race. And remember, like 3 months ago, back in April, like we were talking about Alaska being safe for the Republicans in the Senate. Even I characterized it as safe. But now, only 3 or 4 months later, we're seeing this. Excuse me, be. Oh my gosh, be likely for the Republican Party. That is very, very interesting, and it just shows that Alaska is trending to the left overall, and we can see Al Gross winning here. However, this is a red state. Donald Trump's probably going to be elected. He won't be. He won by 15 in 2016, I believe, and I don't think that we're going to see that exact kind of thing. But we're probably going to see, to be realistic, we're probably going to see him winning by 9 or 10 points. That's going to help Sullivan. Gross is almost I'm 90% sure that he's going to outperform Joe Biden here, and he's going to make it a very close race. He's a very strong candidate, and he's going to draw a lot of support from independents, from progressives, and from moderate Democrats. So yeah, thanks for watching. This is my analysis, but bottom line is people are underestimating Al Gross, but I think it'll be Dan Sullivan. So thanks for watching. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. I have a Patreon if you would like to donate to me, help me. There are perks, obviously. Help me get better equipment. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.